In this video, I'll be revealing the age 62 savings paradox that hurts retirees the most. In over 15 years working with hundreds of clients who thought that they had more or less made it at age 62, I discovered that this age creates a dangerous paradox that many retirees don't realize until it's too late. If you're new to the channel, my name's Justin. I own a financial planning firm in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, where we work with retirees from all across the country, helping them make smart financial decisions. And that's exactly why I'm making today's video, to expose why age 62 feels like financial freedom, but actually creates the conditions for running out of money in your 80s and 90s, and to show you how to navigate this critical checkpoint properly. So let's dig into it. So let's talk about the I made it illusion that destroys long-term retirement security. At age 62, everything can seem to click. You're eligible for Social Security. You can take penalty-free withdrawals from your pre-tax IRA accounts or 401k. You might have lighter responsibility now because you either retired or you cut back to working part-time. It can all combine into a powerful narrative that feels like, all right, I made it. I've arrived. But this moment of freedom can be a false finish line, because retirement at 62 doesn't really mark the end. It marks the beginning of a 30 to 40-year financial marathon that many don't fully anticipate. And the most dangerous part is you feel like you've won just as the longest and most expensive leg of the race begins. And today, I think that's why good financial plans should assume that people will live well into their 90s. And when I'm building any plan, I usually do this by default. I want to run it to at least age 90, if not age 95 or 100. And now, that's the point. Most people will joke with me, and many of my clients will say, Justin, not me. I'm not going to make it until age 90. You should plan until maybe 84 or 88, but you just don't know. And that's the whole point. The Society of Actuaries actually reports that a healthy 65-year-old couple has a nearly 50% chance that one of them will make it to age 93. And by 2050, the US will have over 1 million people that are over 100 years old. So this is something that we have to be aware of, especially when running projections and forecasts for financial plans. That means any decisions that you make at age 62 may determine how or if you thrive in your 80s and 90s. And if the illusion of freedom at 62 wasn't risky enough, some of the healthcare costs can make that mirage even more dangerous. And so let's talk about the healthcare cost reality that can demand a lot more savings preservation. So healthcare isn't just a retirement expense, it can be a retirement disruptor. I've given estimates from Fidelity before that a 55-year-old couple might need over $463,000 for lifetime healthcare, not including the big one, long-term care costs. I'm sure you might already be familiar with some of the numbers that are thrown out. A nursing home can cost anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000 or more per year, and 42% of retirees will likely require 1 or 2 years of care at some point. These expenses typically hit in your 80s and 90s, exactly when potential earlier withdrawals could have left you the most vulnerable. And with long-term care insurance premiums jumping very, very high in the last few years, more retirees are forced to fund these six-figure risks, often with dwindling savings if they haven't prepared correctly. And now in my experience, I found a lot of this cost can come from home care. I know everybody's usually thinking about long-term care medical costs as just nursing home coverage, but in many of the cases, a lot of it can be from home care, because that's what most people want, and that's where we want to keep you. We want to keep you staying in your home as long as possible, but those costs can be extremely expensive as well. And a lot of retirees may not be thinking about that as a possibility, or haven't figured out how to possibly fund that as well. And that's where some of the long-term care insurance can come in to do that. And I don't want this video to be about long-term care insurance, but the point is making sure that you're aware of what these costs can get up to, what's realistic, and have some kind of plan to cover it if that comes up. But some of the danger doesn't lie in just the cost of healthcare. It's how early access and how maybe too much early spending can accelerate some of that portfolio and wealth decline. And so let's talk about the withdrawal rate trap that can accelerate portfolio depletion. So retiring early just doesn't shrink your timeline. It can rewrite your whole math, because obviously the earlier that you retire, the longer period that you have to go to fund your lifestyle, especially if you're going to be living into your 90s or potentially reach age 100. And so the classic 4% rule that you hear thrown around a lot, it used to be the benchmark, but now over half of advisors, and I showed an interesting paper in one of my earlier videos, I'm going to show it again here now, how it seems like perhaps 3% could be the new 4% rule, just reflecting longer retirements, volatile markets, the fact that perhaps maybe the outperformance in the US stock market is an anomaly, and we don't know if that's going to continue. I don't know if that's the case. I think with smart withdrawal strategies, you can still push 4, 5%, maybe 6. It just depends on how well your investments perform and how well you have a withdrawal strategy adjusted, making those dynamic adjustments. That's all a very critical part of it. But if you start withdrawals at 62 years old or earlier, you may likely have to bring your withdrawals up to 4, 5, maybe 6% in some years, turning a sustainable retirement into a potential countdown for depletion if you're not careful. And other factors like sequence of returns risk can intensify the danger. But to be 100% clear on sequence of returns risk, I don't use it or mention it to scare you. I don't like to use fear or think fear should be a part of your financial planning approach. Sequence of returns risk is real, but research shows us that it's actually pretty rare and can be controlled by not continuing to take inflation-adjusted withdrawals into bad markets. So it's not the boogeyman that it's always made out to be. You just need to be aware of it and that it could be something that could come up. But that's why I like to see dynamic adjustments, tailored withdrawal strategies where you're modifying those withdrawals from year to year. I have a lot of videos on withdrawal rate strategies where I talk about it a lot, but even if the math looks sound, there's another dangerous variable here, and that's how it feels to retire early. Before that, though, now that you understand the withdrawal rate trap, if you need more personalized help with your retirement, click the link below the video in the description. There'll be a quick questionnaire, fill it out. I will send you back a personalized video giving you my thoughts on your retirement and some steps that you can take to possibly improve. Next, let's talk about the longevity planning gap that makes age 62 decisions catastrophic. So in 1950, retirement lasted 10 to 15 years. Today, it can span 3 or 4 decades. And in 2014, there were about 72,000 Americans that were over age 100, which is a 44% increase since the year 2000. And this is no longer a medical anomaly. It's becoming more and more normal for people to live till age 100. And that's the heart of this longevity paradox. So living longer is a blessing, assuming you have good quality of life, and that's what we want to shoot for. It's a blessing, though, until your savings aren't keeping up with that longevity. And many financial advisors are taking note of this as well. Over 60% now budget for higher healthcare costs thanks to longer lifespans. And over half say that not saving enough has edged out outliving retirement savings as their top client concern. That means this longevity planning gap, understanding both your lifespan and the funding it demands, is more critical and can be more dangerous than ever. But there's another trap that hits earlier, and that's one to recognize because it actually feels so good. And this last one I'll talk about is the psychological spending trap that compounds some of that early withdrawal damage. And so the moment people retire at 62, a subtle shift can end up happening. Money freedom starts to meet that time freedom, and that can create what we call a retirement honeymoon effect. Travel, hobbies, home upgrades, these all feel like deserved rewards. It's I've worked a long time, I deserve to have some fun now, and you do, for sure. You've waited decades for this, you've earned it, totally get that, but this is where most retirees can tend to spend the most, right when their lifetime savings are the most vulnerable. So that I deserve it bias can kick in and color every decision instead of only a few that it should. And it doesn't feel reckless, it feels rational, it feels well-deserved, but that just makes it harder to notice and harder to potentially stop. Plus, more free time triggers more spending. Leisure isn't cheap, and filling 40 plus free hours a week is an expense in its own right. You have to find stuff to do. But we found that, and I found in a lot of my experience, that early retirees especially want to front load their spending in those go-go years, as we call them. Those are the years you have energy, hopefully health, to get up and do the things you want to do. You've been waiting a long time to do them, so you feel that go, go, go drive to do it. But by the time you realize that you may be overspending, your financial foundation could already be cracked. And then once your lifestyle expands, trying to cut back feels like a loss. It feels like a punishment. instead of being responsible or prudent. And we don't want it to feel that way. It's almost like running a marathon and then sprinting the first mile, exhilarating at first. Hey, I'm getting out ahead of everybody. This is great. Happy to be running the marathon. But then you're out of gas long before the finish line. And that's the outcome that we don't want to happen. And so now that you understand the psychological spending trap, let's look at how to reframe age 62 as a strategic checkpoint rather than just a retirement start line. And so now let's talk about the age 62 checkpoint strategy that can preserve long-term financial security. So you might have heard all this and you might be thinking, okay, Justin, I get it. I get the risks. I see there's a lot of potential problems here, but now what? How do I actually figure out the proper balance without underspending my whole life due to fear or running out by age 89 or in my 90s because I let spending get away from me? Well, that's the whole core of retirement tension and many of the questions and stress in the first place. And there's no perfect answer. The answer to it is always, it depends based on everybody's individual circumstances. But there is a smarter way to think about this. And here's how I approach it with my clients. So this is what I call you could call this the 62 plus strategy, or if there's something more catchy, you can call it that. But this is a method that treats age 62 not as a finish line, but more like your most strategic decision and kickoff point, because that's exactly what it is. So here's how to do it. Number one, we want to separate spending into needs, wants, and legacy and or bucket list items. So needs get funded no matter what. And then wants are flexible. It's the travel, the upgrades, the hobbies, and then legacy is what's left for family, charity, peace of mind. Or if legacy isn't something that you have concerns with, if your thoughts are, hey, my kids are fine, or if you don't have kids and you want to make sure you get all the enjoyment out of your money as possible, you can just add what's in legacy to wants and just add bucket list items onto that. And then what we want to do next is we want to run multiple withdrawal scenarios, not just one. So what happens if markets drop 20% in year 2? What if you have a lost decade, like from the year 2000 to 2009, which is when I got started in the business? Not a fun time to be starting as a financial advisor, let me tell you. What if healthcare costs spike in your 80s? What if you do live to be 100? Do you have enough growth to maintain your purchasing power up to that point? So we want to see all that. We want to run all those scenarios and make sure that we're building in those contingencies, that nothing's going to come out and surprise you and ruin your whole retirement. And then we want to plan backwards from key risk points. So for example, at age 80, can your savings still cover a long-term care surprise for you? Can it cover one for your spouse? Will it be able to handle nursing home care? Will it be able to handle home health care? Or will it only be able to handle one or the other? Those are things that we need to know. We need to find that room there. And then let's say you do live to age 90 or beyond. Will guaranteed income streams like Social Security or annuities, pensions, for example, will those still cover the basics? Or do we need to build that from the beginning to make sure you still have income enough to cover the basics that will increase with inflation and retain purchasing power? So this way, you're not trying to guess the quote perfect number. You're building a system that can respond as life unfolds and then making all the adjustments that we need to in the meantime. And so the main takeaways here, if you're going to take anything away from this video, I'd say number one is run a longevity plan. Don't just plan or guess for an average life expectancy, because you don't know what's going to happen, especially with increases in technology for healthcare. We have AI now. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, people are living much, much longer. It's starting to become the norm. So plan for 95 plus. That should be the new baseline. It's a very easy fix to put in your projections or planning to say, well, let's plan it out. Make sure if I do live to be 100, I'm going to make it. So it won't be something that has to come up and surprise you if you live longer than expected. And then when it comes to like guaranteed income, for example, like Social Security, if you're able to, try to delay it as long as you can. And now this isn't supposed to be a Social Security video. I've made one of those before, actually a couple of them, where I talk about all the different factors for what goes into picking when to take Social Security. In many cases, most of the time, it's a psychological decision. But since I'm talking about longevity, Social Security is one of the best longevity protectors in retirement. So if you can, delay that Social Security so you get the most out of it. And then also make sure you have enough growth on the investment side. I've talked a lot before about how retirees will tend to be too conservative, But given the fact that you could be in retirement for 30, 40 years, you definitely want to make sure you're not shortchanging yourself on the growth side. And then on the healthcare side, you want to make sure you're either pre-funding that healthcare risks. We don't want to hope that long-term care won't affect you. We want to plan as if it will. And even if that just means maybe you need a year or two of home health care, which I find is, in many cases, at least in my experience here in Pennsylvania, has been a more common scenario than someone having to go to a full-blown facility or 100% care facility. So make sure you have that in there as a plan and okay, this could happen. We want to make sure that we're taking steps to cover it, whether it's long-term care insurance, whether it's working with an estate planning attorney to make sure you know exactly what would happen if you did need care, how that's going to impact your assets. Many retirees will wait too long till right as they need some type of long-term care coverage or event happens to go talk to an attorney and figure out what they need to do. So you can get a jump on that to make sure it doesn't come out and surprise you. So in short, age 62 should trigger more analysis, more strategic, intentional planning, not just, hey, I made it, let's go spend some money, let's go have some fun. We want you to have some fun, but after you've mapped out the plan, you have the plan set in place and you have a strategy, then go have as much fun as you want. So now that you understand why age 62 feels like financial freedom, but actually creates the conditions for long-term financial disaster, and how to use this milestone as a strategic checkpoint instead, you can preserve your retirement for the decades ahead. If you want help developing some strategies that can optimize your age 62 transition without compromising your long-term financial security, click the link below. It'll take you to a quick questionnaire, fill it out. I will send you back a personalized video giving you my thoughts on retirement and giving you some tips to possibly improve. If I can help, just let me know. Glad to do it. Thanks again for watching as always, and I will see you in the next one.